Good morning, and welcome to Sunday Soul Day, weekly fuel for your mind, body, and soul. Today we have Brianna Moura, who is an empowerment coach for women, as well as an elementary school teacher. Welcome to Sunday Soul Day, Brianna.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we are so excited to have you on the show. Brianna also was one of the Jay Shetty Coaching Certification School coaches that I met online after, and was really grateful I came across her content. She has just incredible content that she's putting out every day. And so, really grateful I came across your content and also through one of our other soul fuelers, Kevin Castillo. Shout out to Kevin who was on, he was one of our first few guests on Sunday Soul Day. So we're thrilled to dive right in and would love to learn a little bit more about your background. Where did you grow up and kind of what inspired you to pursue first your, just becoming a teacher and then transitioning into coaching?
Yeah, definitely. So I grew up in Bronx, New York. I was raised by my mom, my dad, and I also have a younger sister. And growing up, they really instilled the importance of education. The both of them did not graduate from high school. They actually dropped out when they were 16. And so they really knew it was important for us to go to school in order to make something out of ourselves and have an impact on the world. So throughout my childhood, they were very supportive. They gave me a lot of love, a lot of encouragement. They supported whatever direction I wanted to take in life. However, they struggled a lot with their relationship, and that as a result had an impact on me and my sister. And throughout that time, it was really hard for us because we would constantly see them fighting, arguing. They were very emotionally immature for themselves. So it was very difficult for them to provide an environment where we had emotional security, and it was difficult. So my sister and I, we spent a lot of time with our grandma. She would take care of us when we weren't with our parents, and she really provided that nurturing environment for us. So I'm extremely grateful for her. But throughout that time, we were still faced with that trauma of what my parents were going through. And as a result, my sister and I began overeating. I was overweight from very early in childhood up until the end of high school. And at the time, I didn't know that I was using food as a coping strategy for everything that was going on. So that was really hard for me to even go through when I was in high school and much of elementary school because, kids aren't really kind to other kids that are overweight. So that was something I really did struggle a lot with. And throughout my life, I focused on losing weight and eating healthy to overcome that. But in the moment, it was difficult. And, just being witness to what my parents were going through, I knew it was wrong. I even remember being 10 years old telling my mom, like, you need to get a divorce. Like, this is not appropriate. And it just, it didn't work out. So my parents eventually got a divorce when I started high school. So I moved to Connecticut for high school, and I hated it. I hated it in Connecticut. I was so happy that my mom finally decided to separate from my dad. And don't get me wrong, like my dad and I have a perfect relationship. Like I love him to death. But as a husband, like it just wasn't working out. And so when I moved to Connecticut, I struggled a lot. Like I said, I was overweight. It was very difficult for me to make friends. I did not have the confidence that I needed to even engage with a lot of people. So I definitely like began to shelter myself. I would cry to my mom every day, like, please let me go to school in New York. Like we could work this out somehow. But I ended I ended up just powering through. My mom told me, I could get through it. She was very supportive. She wanted me to face this challenge, overcome it, but she also wanted to give me the support that I needed at the time. So in high school, I ended up meeting someone. And it's funny because as a child, I knew my parents' relationship was wrong. I knew everything that they were going through it just wasn't right. But you still reenact the same cycle, no matter what, whether you know it or not. It's just like bound to happen. So unfortunately, that is what happened. I met someone when I was 16. He lived in New York. And I ended up going to see him like while I lived in Connecticut. And then I eventually graduated high school, started college in New York, and I continued my relationship with him. And reflecting on it now, at 30, almost 31 years old, I was in this relationship from when I was 16. I just came to the realization about how I did not value myself in that relationship. The relationship included just like so much lying. He was unfaithful, just manipulation, made me believe things that weren't true, made me think that I was crazy. And I stayed in the relationship for about 10 years, 10 years of my life where I knew it was wrong. The signs were there. The lowest point, I have to share, the lowest point, I got into his car and there was a bra in the front seat. And to anyone, if you would have told someone the story right away, you would know, like, what is wrong with you? Like, it's black and white. But when you are in something that is so, you're blind, you are in a state where you disassociate from reality. You just, it's really, the trauma is just, it's so difficult. It's really difficult. And it made me realize how I didn't value myself. I was in a place where I was suppressing everything that was going on. I used to drink a lot, which you would think was like appropriate. I was in my 20s, but it was excessive to the point that I was suppressing it. And again, I was unaware of all of this. And then finally, my grandma passed away in 2018, and it was very difficult for me. And it also was empowering because from that moment, I knew that I was not going to accept anything less than I deserved. That was the moment that I found my voice. And from that day, I ended it with him, never spoke to him again, and moved on and created a life that was meant for me, that I felt truly fulfilled. And it took a lot of work. Now, mind you, this happened in 2018, and now we're in 2023, and I have not stopped. I started reading self-help books. That's how I began my journey, and I focused a lot on exercising, eating right, going to the gym, and little by little, I built myself up.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. And I can't imagine, like, just having so many different transitions at such a young age. And, growing up in a household that is chaotic like that, it is never easy. And, a lot of times we're looking to our parents for that guidance and, our, self-worth and all the things, that you want your parents to do as a child. But when they're in a volatile situation and trying to deal with their own shit, it's like hard because then they don't tend to the needs of the children. And so kudos to your mom for making that decision to get a divorce, because it's not easy, and you see it so many times where people fall into those relationships. I look at my own personal experience. It was I experienced a lot of abuse as a child, and it opened me up to more violations as an adult, because you don't quite have all the tools to recognize those things, and sometimes they just feel like home. They feel very safe, they feel normal and familiar, and so you gravitate towards it. And I can't imagine what that was like for 10 years for you, and then having to pull yourself out of it and then really rebuilding yourself. And a lot of times it does take some sort of a loss or a large transition, like losing someone that was so important to us, to really spark, as I would say, from pain to purpose, and so really grateful that you shared. When did you become a school teacher, really quickly? And all of this, you were teaching elementary school?
Yeah, so I actually wanted to be a teacher since I was a child. It was just something that I was always really interested in. I remember playing school with my sister and my grandma, just like, okay, this is like what I want to do. So as soon as I graduated from Mercy in 2014 with my bachelor's, I became a teacher and I started teaching in Harlem, actually, at a charter school. And I was there for about 4 or 5 years. And that was really what paved the way, the foundation for my teaching, especially my teaching style. I had a lot of experience with different types of children that allowed me to establish what I saw as good teaching.
Wow. Hi, Brianna.
Hey.
Hi, thank you so much for sharing your journey and your transitions. And before I get into my next question, I just wanted to touch on what you said because it's so important for our audience to hear this, that we tend to gravitate towards what's familiar and not always what's safest and best for us, similar to what Demisha had said. And so I just want our audience to hear this, because otherwise there's a lot of beating ourselves up and not understanding why we were why we ended up where we were at certain points. And we repeat patterns until we learn tools to develop new patterns. And when you were saying about like finding the bra and kind of being told things and believing it, you're in that eye of the storm. And sometimes it takes distance to heal and have new perspective. And so also for our audience, it's very easy as an outsider to say, hey, you need to get out of that relationship, or why didn't you leave that relationship? But until you've been in that situation, it's really hard to understand how someone stays, why someone stays, or why someone entered that kind of relationship in the first place. So just wanted to kind of bring that up a little bit. And then, so Demisha asked you how you kind of became a school teacher. I want to hear about how you transitioned from being an elementary school teacher to being a life coach. That's quite a shift. So what inspired you to change your life's path?
Yeah, so great question. Like I said, I really love teaching. I feel like it's so second nature to me. It's just natural. But life coaching, it came across my way in 2021. I was just browsing on the internet and I was like, I want to seek more information about psychology. I was like, maybe I should go back to school, learn more about psychology, possibly become a therapist. But that role didn't seem intriguing enough to me. I didn't feel like I wanted to become a therapist. I wanted to have an impact some other way. So I looked up different online programs and it still didn't stick. And this was in 2021. I browsed, I signed up for like a free course, something like that, but I never followed through with it. And then it wasn't until 2022, I started a program. It's called 75 Hard, and it's run by Andy Frisella. It's a mental toughness program. So I did this just for like going to the gym and working out. I did not realize the impact that it was going to have on me mentally. And let me tell you, really briefly, 75 Hard is 75 days where you follow a certain amount of tasks and you have to do them every day. If you don't complete them every day, you have to restart at day one. So I did this and I completed 75 Hard. And during that journey, you have to read 10 pages of a self-development book every day. And one of the books that I picked up was Be Where Your Feet Are by Scott O'Neill. And Scott O'Neill, he works in the sports world actually, but his book is about being where your feet are, being still, being present in the moment, appreciating all that you have. And his daughter actually would write down 14 things that she was grateful for every day. And she was 14 at the time. And I thought to myself, I always wanted to get into journaling, but I didn't start. I just didn't know where to start. I'm going to start today. I'm going to write down 3 things that I'm grateful for every day. If this girl could do 14, I could at least do 3. So that is how I started my journaling. I added in affirmations. And then along the way, I'm listening to Jay Shetty, listening to his podcast, still did not cross paths with his life coaching program. Later on in the year, I came across Lighter by Young Pueblo, Diego Perez, and his book is all about how meditation paved the way for him to find out who he truly was and what he truly wanted out of life. So that was another sign for me. I'm like, okay, I'm going to start meditating. I've never done this before. And I actually signed up with Jay Shetty's Genius app. And I used his app for the meditation. I started at 5 minutes only a day. And I remember it so clearly. I felt so awkward, just sitting down, trying to be still, thinking like, all right, this is normal. Like, I'm not my thoughts. My thoughts are just clouds, like really trying to get in the zone. And every day I did 5 minutes. And then slowly I built it up and I added it to 10 minutes. And now my practice is actually 2 times a day, in the morning before I start my day and at night before I go to sleep, but still did not cross paths with life coaching. And then in February of this year, 2023, I actually got COVID and I had time to be still. I had a week off of work. I wasn't really sick. I wasn't too bad. So I really just had that time to go on walks and spend time outdoors, but still isolating. And I came across his program of life coaching and I'm like, why not? I don't have anything really going on right now. Let me do this. And I signed up that day.
That's amazing. Isn't it just great how things kind of naturally flow when they're supposed to? And I just think that gratitude and affirmations are the gateway to happiness. And I just also really like that you touched on the meditation of I am not my thoughts, because we put so much importance on our thoughts, or let our thoughts have so much power, and to have that reminder during meditation that, hey, I'm not my thoughts, and it helps us to detach and let go. So these are some really great gems. Thank you so much, Brianna.
Yeah. And by the way, 75 hard, I have seen people post that they are doing 75 hard and they will get up to about 10 days and then they start right back over. So the fact that you finish is just amazing in itself, because it's like requires you to do 2 workouts a day, right? Like 10 pages, like there's some other things. You have to drink a gallon of water, like so many other things that a lot of people just, they fall short. I mean, things come up and then, so the fact that you finish is just amazing. And I love the book Lighter. That is just such a great nugget that you left with our audience. You signed up for Jay Shetty's Coaching Certification School. What are some of the takeaways, like you could share, like just some of the most significant takeaways from your experience there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I never had any experience with life coaching. I never gave someone like a session. I never gave feedback to someone or shared personal specific stories with someone, but it made me think of how I help people in my life naturally, not in a, set out setting, but more so just authentically when I'm just chatting with family members or friends. And I knew that I was good at that. But what I didn't know was how much it was going to impact me and my own development. I've always been someone that is very direct with their thoughts, their words, their actions. I feel like I'm very consistent and authentic in who I am, but it created a new layer. It made me become even more authentic in who I am because it made me find my purpose. And it made me feel that I was truly having an impact on people's lives. It's amazing that I'm also a teacher because I do have an impact on children's lives every day, but to also share that with adults, it's truly amazing. I get to see it with the children and I see them apply it and they learn from it in the moment since they're so young. But to have my clients come back to me, after 4 or 5 months of working with me, and they have made major changes in their life, it is just such an empowering feeling. And I don't think I could get that feeling anywhere else.
No, absolutely. And the Jay Shetty Coaching Certification School is done so well. It teaches you not only, the importance of how to be a coach, but also teaches you so much about yourself, and you get to really peel back your layers even more. You talked about doing some deep work prior, but I felt like I was doing even more deep work and learning so much, through that program. And you're so right, like, being able to serve in the way that we are serving. Ali is a licensed therapist. It's such a gift, but it's also a great deal of responsibility, and I think, like, I'm learning that as I go, like, from the content we put out, from everything that we do. So thank you so much for sharing.
Brianna, you mentioned empowering women to discover their authentic selves. What's your personal philosophy or approach to helping individuals achieve this?
Yeah. So I really believe that in order to be your authentic self, you have to first develop self-trust. And self-trust is something that truly takes time. You have to make promises and keep promises to yourself. You need to show up every day for yourself, no matter what is going on. And that is the way that you'll truly live an authentic and meaningful life. A lot of times, people will say, I'm going to start tomorrow, or I'm going to do this tomorrow. And when they don't follow through on that, you are telling yourself that you don't keep promises to yourself. You don't do hard things. You're just saying you're going to do it, but you actually never do. And that slowly makes you feel unworthy. It slowly makes you feel like you're not good enough. So before you can do anything, you have to have trust with yourself. And in order to do that, is you start small. You do little things every day. I feel like making your bed is one of the most important parts of your day. It's literally the first completion that you can get done to tell yourself, like, okay, I do things, I get things done. No matter what's going on, no matter how you feel, it's like the first check on your to-do list. And oftentimes we create these never-ending to-do lists, we don't get anything done, and then we enter that cycle where we're just being unkind to ourselves, saying mean things, and that shame cycle begins, and it's really hard to get out of it. So it's really just keeping promises to yourself and showing up, whether you want to or not.
Yeah, and that word self-trust. I mean, I remember being in graduate school and we had to do or got to do 200 hours of therapy. And that was a word that my therapist instilled in me. I mean, that word was just used regularly it's not anymore so, but for passwords, for everything in my life. I had it in my calendar reminders with self-trust. And I try so hard to live by that word, that specific word today. And so thank you for reminding our audience of the importance of the word self-trust.
Yeah, absolutely. And what stood out for me too was as the win of the day, starting with the making of your bed. Like I always say, I start with the win just by even waking up, like, and being grateful for that. And then my next win is making my bed. so I love that you mentioned that. You talked about your clients. Like, what are some of the common challenges and roadblocks that you've observed that kind of hold people back from trusting themselves and really living their most authentic lives?
Yeah, definitely. So with a lot of my clients, there's a range of things, but a lot of it comes down to our limiting beliefs. A lot of people just do not have confidence in themselves. They believe that they're not good enough. They believe that they're not worthy. A lot of it has to do with environment, how they were raised, some of the things that they might have been told when they were a child, that you need to be a certain way. And if you're not this certain way, then you're not going to be good or worthy. You need to have a good job. You need to have X amount of salary. And it's really hard to undo that because this is what people have been told their whole life. And, our parents, they did the best that they could with the tools that they had. And it doesn't excuse it. It makes you understand why they were only able to give you that much. But now that you know that, what are you doing with that information? Because at the end of the day, you as an individual are responsible for yourself. All of the power you have, it comes from within. And many times people look to their parents or society or their environment. Well, my mom doesn't like this. My dad doesn't like this. It does not matter what people think, say, or feel. It is about what you feel. And it's about what makes you happy. And oftentimes people, they don't even know. They don't know what makes them happy because they're stuck in that people pleasing mode where if I make other people happy, I'm not going to be rejected, or I'm not going to be let down, or I'm not going to be made fun of. And there's just so many different things where people are just living for others and not for themselves.
Wow, it's so true. You hit so many nails on the head there, like from the limiting self-beliefs to the negative self-talk. I was just sharing this with another guest, like, humans have like 50 to 60,000 thoughts a day, and the majority of them are negative. And so, you go online, that doesn't even help because you're literally looking at people's highlight reels, and you're comparing your lives to them. So that's another, challenge that I've seen is the comparison gene. And then, really believing those things that other people tell us about ourselves. And until people really take the time to get to know themselves and peel back their layers and figure out what the heck they want, like they're going to continue to like have the same results, And so I love that you touched on that, because it's so true. And I've seen it in my clients. I know Allie has probably seen it in hers as well.
Yeah. And I feel that oftentimes people, they want instant gratification. They want a quick fix. They want the problem to be solved overnight. And they don't stop and think, like, when you're a child and you learn how to do something for the first time, you learn how to ride a bike, it doesn't take one or two tries. You have to keep going at it. And with your brain, you are literally working on rewiring the thoughts, the patterns, the behavior that have been inscribed in you since you were a child. And now you're what, 25, 30, 40 years old, trying to undo all of that. It takes time.
Brianna, before I go on to my next question, I want to just touch on something you said that I find so important. The empathy that you have for your parents and that you ask our audience to have for their parents and loved ones, with one of the statements you said that our parents or others are doing the best they can with what they have. That is one of the main tools I use with my clients in helping them to find forgiveness through empathy and understanding, hey, they may have not had the same resources that we have today. And let's find some empathy and compassion in order to forgive them, and also find the gratitude for the resources that we do have today. So I think that's so important. And as you were sharing your early story, you really touched on that idea that your parents were doing the best they could with what they had. So thank you for mentioning that. So relationships and honest conversations seem to be significant to your work. How do you guide individuals to build and maintain authentic relationships in their lives?
Yeah, definitely. So it has to do a lot with being still and checking in with oneself. A lot of times clients are, on the go. They have a ton of things to do, like all of us. We all have a lot on our plates, and they don't stop and sit down with their feelings. So definitely having my clients create the time where they can be with their thoughts and take that time to get clear on what they really want. Listening to their body responses. If they are speaking to someone, noticing if their body is tensing up or they feel at ease. Checking in and knowing how you truly feel in the moment is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting present with ourselves and checking in with where we're at in the moment. And it's something that I work on every day. And, as you're talking, I was just blown away. You're so young and you already have these awarenesses, these abilities. And I just think that you're going to influence so many people of the younger generation, because they need the support, and the fact that you can relate with your background as a teacher and your authenticity, but also your young spirit in addition to that, I think it's just such a great combination for the people that you've already touched and that you're going to continue touching. So how do you define courage and vulnerability in the context of self-discovery? And how do you help your clients to embody these qualities?
Yeah, great question. So courage is when you are showing up to something regardless of the outcome. You know, a lot of times we are caught up in our thoughts. We're in our head. We're thinking about all the things that could go wrong instead of thinking of what can go right. And I truly feel that courage is so important, as well as vulnerability, because it means that you are able to face things regardless of the outcome. And I like to say, when I am faced with a challenge, what am I going to learn from this? Because no matter what I am faced with, whether I perceive it as good or bad, there's a lesson in it. There's a lesson in everything. So being brave enough to know that, okay, something's going to happen, right? Whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter, because I know I'm going to learn either way. And I feel like with my students, especially, something that I teach them is it's okay to make mistakes as long as you learn from them. And it's something that adults need to hear too. We're often so hard on ourselves and we don't take those risks because we don't want to make a mistake. We're scared of what other people are going to think about us. But if you're vulnerable and honest and open with people, that's how connections are made. And the more open and honest you are, the more authentic your relationships are going to be, the more at home you're going to be with yourself. And that way, the person that you are is just going to radiate out to the world, and you are going to be able to do all the things that you want to do. And those negative beliefs, they're going to be a thing of the past, because you are showing up regardless of the outcome.
Yeah, and that was just a great reminder of how your work and our work is helpful to older and younger generations. We're kind of the generation of learning about self-care, about authenticity, about that it is okay to make mistakes. And not only is it okay, it's necessary, and it's a gift because it motivates us towards our purpose and the direction we're supposed to go in. So thank you.
Really just dropping so many gems today. I'm loving all of this. Thank you so much for sharing. As someone who's deeply passionate about helping others, what advice would you offer to listeners who may be at a crossroads in their lives, seeking transformation and self-discovery?
Yeah, so definitely gratitude, stopping, noticing the small things that you are grateful for every day has such an impact. It was one of my first practices that I started, and it just makes you stop and notice all that you have. I like to say, stop and smell the flowers, and literally stop and smell the flowers, because it's amazing what is around us. And we take it for granted because we're stuck in our head. We're thinking about work, we're thinking about our family, we're thinking about all the things we have to do, when right now in front of you, there's literally this beautiful world that you're not stopping to appreciate. So definitely being grateful, gratitude, a daily practice of gratitude, reflection, and stillness. Reflection is so important for success in one's mental health. If you don't sit back and reflect on the things that went well, didn't go well, how are you going to grow? If you're just continuing doing the same things every day, you still don't feel happy. Well, if you stop and take a moment to reflect, why am I not feeling happy? Do these things align with what I truly want out of life? If I want to spend time with my family more, but I'm actually on my computer all day, then you're going to be unhappy because you're not aligning your values to what you truly want out of life. And stillness, taking that time to be still with your thoughts. The way that I get still is by going on walks. Walks are one of the most underrated things, in my opinion. I go on at least 2 45-minute walks every day. And if not, I go on more, because it just gives you an opportunity to just be present, to slow down, And I feel like so many people, they don't do that. They wake up last minute, hit the alarm, go to work, come home from work, maybe cook dinner, order food, go back to sleep, and do it all over again. And where is that time for you to actually sit and reflect, be still, be grateful? Where is it?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think people have to get really intentional too about that because we're in this hurried, busy life that we're living, and we're on this hamster wheel that's like, we're just going through life and really almost like zombies moving through it. But until you start, being a lot more intentional with your time and your energy, and taking the time to stop and smell the flowers, to your point, and really the self-reflection and the stillness, that's when great things happen. I even wrote a ebook on the importance of self-reflection. It's called 10 simple yet powerful ways to practice self-reflection, and I wanted to just write a short ebook on what I was doing that helped me during that transitional time that I was in. And I've actually been on my transitional healing journey for years, but I finally got really intentional about it, started documenting it, and then sharing it. And so the reflection and stillness is a large part of that. So really, really great gems that you shared there. As someone who is a busy entrepreneur and empowerment coach, as well as a elementary school teacher, how do you find harmony in your own life? What are some ways that you feel your own mind, body, and soul?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are 5 habits that I stick to every day. I actually have a PDF document where I share this with my clients as well as whoever wants access to it. But my 5 habits are journaling, meditation, exercise, love, and learning. And I feel that those are critical for my overall happiness. So exercising, I work out in the gym 4 days a week. The other days I am walking, again, at least 2 45-minute walks every single day. Whether I'm in the gym or not, I'm walking and I'm outside doing it, no matter the weather. That's one of the other factors with 75 Hard, where you do it no matter the weather, because you make compromises with yourself. You're like, oh, you know what? No, not today. It's raining. I'll start tomorrow. When the reality is, it's an excuse, and you have to show up. I always say, do the hard things. Choose the hard things first, because once you choose that hard thing, the rest is going to be easy. So I wake up every day with that mindset, choose hard. So that's the first thing I do. I go to the gym. I wake up at 4 o'clock during the week, 4 a.m. to go to the gym. And it's hard, but if you do it every day, you're telling yourself that I don't give up. I do the hard thing, whether I'm tired or not, I'm still going to show up. So exercising, definitely. Journaling. I said before, I journal my gratitude. So every day I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for, and I write down my affirmations. My affirmations vary based on the period that I'm in or the season that I'm in my life. And I truly believe that has such a large impact on the way that I lead my life. So my affirmations and my gratitude are critical. I also have a journal that I have created for my clients as well, which include spaces for affirmations, gratitude, but also a let it go list. I feel like often we hold on to so much and we don't forgive. We just build up resentment. And in order to grow, you have to let things go. Yeah. So letting it go is something that I believe is truly important for people that are, going through hard times, and maybe not even hard times, just throughout your day. If someone cut you off, let that go. Like it's not something that you should dwell on, because we don't want to have negative energy inside of ourselves. So exercising, journaling, meditation. I meditate I meditate in the morning before I go to work for at least 10 minutes every day. And I do different guided meditations and at night before I go to sleep. Right now I'm following Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations, and his stuff is great. So yeah, meditating, it just allows me to find a state of stillness and just be one and present with my body. So definitely meditate. And then learning, I feel that we only have access to the information that we surround ourselves with. And if you are surrounded by people that might not be interested in learning more, they might be complacent, they might be okay with where they are in life, then how are you going to learn and grow? You have to take that into your own hands. So I am committed. Every day I learn something new, whether that's through listening to podcasts or reading books or, learning something online, just exploring. But I feel like if you don't learn more, you're not going to know. And it's just critical in your growth and development. And love, of course. I feel like just constantly spreading love and kindness wherever you go, no matter where you are, just sharing that, letting people know that you're grateful for them, telling people like, hey, I want a hug. Recently, I just told my brother-in-law, I'm like, hey, we don't really hug when we say hello and goodbye to each other. And I really want to hug you. So can we start hugging when we see each other? And just being transparent and open with people. It's so underrated. So spreading love at every moment that you can. It's really important.
I love those 5 habits, the journaling, the meditation. So big on letting go. I do the same every night where I release things because I don't want to hold on to anything. And then the exercising, I'm still working on getting my exercising going. I need to get up at 4. Would you say you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning? I'm still blown away by that. Like, oh my gosh. Maybe I'll set my alarm a little earlier to get those double days in. And then the love and the learning, I love those, and I think it's so important because we were placed on this earth to love and to be loved. And so I love that you actually mentioned that.
Brianna, one thing that stood out, well, a lot of things stood out to me, but one thing that really stood out to me is the doing the hard things. And that's something that I work on within myself and with my clients is the tolerating of the delayed gratifications. And one way that we are able to do that is through what I call playing out the tape, because if you just think about waking up and showing up at the gym, you're going to be less motivated. But if you play out the tape to the delayed results or the gratification that comes later, then it creates more momentum or motivation to do those hard things. And so I would actually like to hear a little more about how you're able to motivate yourself to do the hard things. But I'm going to ask you also about like books, mentors, or other resources that have been instrumental in shaping your approach to coaching and personal growth. So can you answer both of those for me?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for those, Allie. Those are both really great questions. What gets me going? How do I choose the hard? There's really no like quick answer to that. It's just, you have to show up. Like, it's not like some special thing that I do or, a little secret that I have. It's literally just showing up and doing the hard things. Like I said, throughout my life, I faced a lot of different challenges and I was at my lowest. And I know how I felt at my lowest point, and I know that I never want to feel that way again. So from being overweight, from having low self-confidence, from being in an unhealthy relationship and really not valuing myself, I knew how badly I felt in those moments. So I know that I'm going to do whatever I can in my power to make sure I never feel that way again. And the way that I do that is by showing up every day for myself. I do it because it makes me feel good. Even when I don't want to do it, it makes me feel good. So just doing the hard things. And when you do the hard things, the easier things come easier. Yeah. And then your question about who I look up to, mentors, books. Mentors for sure, Andy Frisella. He's amazing. If you guys haven't heard about him or haven't checked him out, I definitely recommend it. He's very real, very raw. Some of the things he says, he's very strongly opinionated. So some things people do not agree with. So it's really to anyone's preference, but I look up to him because he chooses the hard. His model of discipline is something that I truly believe is missing in a lot of people. We want the shortcut, we want the easy way out, and there isn't an easy way to have discipline. You just have to do it. And Jay Shetty is definitely another one of my mentors. I love listening to his podcast. I love his books, love seeing him live. He just has a wealth of knowledge, and the way that he shares it, it is in such an easy to digest way that makes it easy to understand. So I really appreciate listening and learning from him. The first book that I ever read on my journey was Untethered Soul. And I have to, give credit where credit is due, because that is truly what allowed me to begin my journey. And it's really about getting clear on, you are not your beliefs. You are not the limiting thoughts that you have in your mind. The only limit that you create is yourself. Like, you're the one literally holding yourself back from achieving what you want to achieve in life. So definitely The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. And along the way, I've learned from so many other people. Mel Robbins, she's another great podcast host. She shares a lot of information that it's just easy to learn from. Lewis Howes, Joe Dispenza, and I mentioned before Young Pueblo. There's just so much information out there, and I want to consume as much of it as possible, and I want to share it with as much people as possible too, because if everyone just listened to an ounce of the information that I listen to, it would just make such an impact. And I feel like people don't take advantage of how much information there is out there.
Thank you for those book recommendations. I absolutely love Mel Robbins. I know I've said that before in another episode, but I just absolutely love her, and I'm going to keep shouting that from the rooftop. So thank you. This has been such a helpful interview and just so inspiring. So thank you so much, Brianna.
Thank you, Ali and Demisha, for taking out the time to meet with me. It was really great, and I appreciate it.
Yes. Well, we have one more question, and it's for our audience. Like, where can people find you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So I'm on Instagram at Embody by Bri. And I have a website. My personal website is briannamoura.org. And you can send me a DM, email me. My email is mourabrianna@gmail.com. But definitely feel free to shoot me an email, send me a DM, whatever feels right for you.
Yes, awesome. Well, thank you again so much. I just love all of the gems that you left our audience today. Love all the book recommendations you gave. Really a huge fan of Untethered Soul, as well as Mel Robbins and Young Pueblo and Jay Shetty, of course. We both signed up for his school, so love all of his work and also his books. So really appreciate you coming on and blessing Sunday Soul Day. I can't even talk today, but just really, really grateful that you came on today. And everyone, have a wonderful Sunday.